Hello and welcome to October, wherein there will be a video every day on this channel. A video every day October, VEDO. I'm actually going to do it this time, I promise. In fairness, I've tried twice. The first time, I nailed it. Second time, I had a breakdown. Not my fault. I thought I'd make this first video a kind of thoughtful, insightful addition to a conversation, something to stimulate your mind, because you're gonna pretty swiftly be given, in this month, some absolute bilge. Starting tomorrow, for me, doing a video every day is like when I used to do cross-country running at school. I'd start off with such energy. I'm like, man, I'm feeling great, I'm gonna nail this one. And then you get to around sort of like the 16th and you're just like, Jesus. That was so attractive. Let's talk about meet and greets and the creator-viewer divide. This conversation mainly happened 2 months ago. I'm nothing if not timely, but it's kind of always ongoing. It happens every summer, especially when the main thrust of convention season comes to an end. We start talking about it more. Plus, when you see this, I'm going to be in Canada. What the fuck? I'll have been at Buffer Festival, and then I'm coming home, and at the end of October, I'm going to be doing MCM. So it's still relevant. I'm just justifying that to myself, really. Back after Summer in the City, Savannah, it was, tweeted talking about how meet and greets maybe made her feel uncomfortable and she wasn't sure quite how she felt about it. It's a sentiment that a lot of YouTubers have expressed in the past, and would you believe, I have some thoughts about it. Yeah. The general thrust of people feeling uncomfortable with the idea of meet and greets as someone who would be meted and do the greeting is that you're given an allotted amount of time and a number of people who you have to meet in that time, and as such the interactions individually have to be kept to a pretty short time limit. I know that when I did one at Summer in the City last year with Sammy, Hazel and Hannah, Sammy in particular was very frustrated by the fact that we had to limit our interactions to about a minute to a minute 30 seconds. In his words, that sucks, man, that just sucks. That's my Sammy impression. It's better when I'm drunk. And I think that's a perfectly valid frustration to have, because people give a lot of their time and energy and emotion to the work you do. You want to be able to have the time to say thank you, because at the end of the day, you wouldn't be standing at the front of that queue, meeting and greeting people, were it not for those people in that queue giving you their time and energy. It's the feeling of wanting to give something back. That said, this year I had a merch stall at Summer in the City, which isn't sort of, for lack of a better phrase, policed. So I can spend as much time with people as I can, or as I would like to. And the question I generally like to ask people when they come to my table is, have you had a good weekend? What are you up to? Some people said that a panel was their favourite part, some people mentioned performances they'd seen the night before, and a lot of people proudly and excitedly showed off their meet and greet wristbands and said, oh, I just got to meet PJ, or I got to meet Connie. They told me about friends that they'd met in the queue. I remember in my meet and greet, there were people who tweeted me saying that they didn't have anyone to go with, so I quote tweeted and said, make friends, and then people did make friends, and then this year, they came back to my merch table to say, hey, look, we're hanging out at Summer in the City again, and we met in your queue. Which for me is just so much of what any of these conventions are about. It's the community aspect of YouTube. We talk an awful lot about how, oh, the old YouTube and the community aspects are all dead and it's all like a cult of personality now. I don't believe that's true, because I have seen an abundance of evidence to back up the fact that that community not only exists, but is thriving. So when we sit there and we say the idea of you queuing for an hour to get a 30-second interaction with your YouTuber of choice, that does sound weird, but then when you consider what takes place during that hour of queuing, like I see people sat in circles playing Cards Against Humanity or plonking away on their ukuleles, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just like when I was in a field back in 2011. And then I like to think about the actual interactions themselves, because for me, when I met Batista or Nigella, by the way, can we talk about that dichotomy? I must have interacted with them for a total of 30 seconds, but I left in that 30 seconds feeling lighter. The feeling I got after leaving was not, oh, I didn't get enough time with them. It was, oh my god, I got to meet Batista and tell him thank you. Or I got to have a chat with Nigella, wherein I have an amazing anecdote. She gave me proper, like, sort of flirty side-eye, and I was like, it's Nigella. There are people who maybe have social anxiety, or maybe don't do well with starting conversations, for whom that very quick meet element of the meet and greet is actually beneficial. Basically, I don't really feel like there's a right answer here. I feel like it's totally up to the person who wants to do the meeting. I think if you sit there and you say, do you know what, I don't really think I'd be satisfied with a 30-second interaction, I want to be able to have a long conversation, maybe don't sign up to a meet and greet queue. On the other hand, if you think, I'd love to be in that queue, that sounds a queue full of people who have similar interests with me, who I can potentially make friends with, and then I get to have a quick selfie and have a very quick laugh with someone who I admire, wow, that sounds great, go for it, get involved. Which is why I personally ended up feeling like my table was a nice halfway house, because it meant that people could come up and they could either grab a quick selfie and run off to the next panel or whatever, or they could stay for a bit and get a bit of advice on their degree. By the way, if I gave you advice on your degree and you followed it, that is your fault. I think a lot of the sort of insecurity that we as creators have over the idea of people getting just a selfie with us or like a quick 30-second interaction comes from the fact that we aren't really sure what we are. That's not really worded right. Kind of an insecurity about being put on that pedestal. It's weird to consider yourself as someone who is on a level where someone would want to queue for several hours to meet you. I think if you look at something like the taking of a very quick selfie, like when I'm running between panels or I'm heading to the main stage and I've only got like a second and someone says, oh, can I just grab a quick picture with you? And I take it, there are some who would say that that's just a picture, that really doesn't mean anything. I'd prefer to have an interaction with you, but it's not just a picture. I always try and throw in a little joke or ask them how they are. But even if I didn't, I think of the picture that I took with Kylie Minogue. When I think of that picture, I don't think about the moment I sidled up to Kylie Minogue and said, can I have a picture, please? I remember how nervous I was to say hi, and then when I did say hi, how she introduced herself to me. Like, she fully reached out her hand and went, hi, I'm Kylie, and I was like, I know. I think about how she gave me a small side hug in the picture and how gracious she was and how kind. The interaction took about 10 seconds. And she must have done that 100 times, but it doesn't matter because that moment wasn't for her, was it? And I hope the person looks at the picture and doesn't just think, oh, that's the time that Daniel J. Layton stopped and took a picture with me, but rather thinks, oh my God, that weekend was great. The weekend as a whole was so mad and there was such a buzz, and they just remembered that sort of wonderful adrenaline feeling of being there. I think it just comes from a place of we all want to make sure that we're giving back, because as creators, you only do well if people want to take in your art. And I certainly know for me, and I'm sure all of my friends, that there's an immense amount of gratitude. That's my feeling on this topic. I mean, what do you think? So that's my thoughts. Welcome to VEDO. Tomorrow it's all gonna go to shit.